Hi everyone, the clip you're about to watch was streamed live on Twitch. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I do Scraptail development as well as any tutorial requests. So pull through to the Twitch, let's hang out and enjoy the clip. A camera manager is surprisingly similar to this, the same principle. Okay, let's see how we can do that. Well, first I'm going to use Cinemachine to demonstrate this. It's a lot easier. All right, so window, package manager, and if you're not using Cinemachine in your project, you are missing out. All right, so I'm going to search for Cinemachine. There it is, just going to install it. Okay, so Cinemachine installed. I'm now going to create just a C# script. Just going to call it camera manager. Okay, and just going to set up the ground for us to be able to test this out. So I'm going to create a new scene. Scene. Where are the scenes? Camera manager tutorial. Okay. And here I just want something for us to look at. So, and also this allows him to give you a bit of a rundown of how Cinemachine works. So if I create a cube, right, that just place this cube right in the center of the world, right there. And now I create a Cinemachine virtual camera, like so. Okay. Just going to call this CMV cam, sure, CMV cam 1. Why not? Now this, where is this placed? 0, 0, 0? Yeah, it is. There you go. Now, as you might notice, when I move my CMV cam, my camera follows. And that's the whole point of Cinemachine. Okay? That's the whole point of Cinemachine. So let's say that I have a camera looking at the cube from this side, and I want another camera. So I'm just going to duplicate it. And I want it pointing from this side, like so. Okay, so a bit of a different angle. Now, the cool thing about Cinemachine is this priority value over here. Okay, whatever camera has a priority value, the highest priority value, it's going to be the one that is active. So if I set my priority value to be 5 on this one, then that's going to become active. If I make it a bit higher, that can easily change between the two, right? And that's not all. If I do this while playing the game, okay, so if I set my priority to be 15, it smoothly changes between the two, and you have full control over these transitions as well, which is great. That's why I'm saying you should definitely be using Cinemachine or some equivalent in your project. It makes your life a lot easier, even if you don't use its all of its features. Okay, so now, again, this is very similar to the menu manager that we did in the past tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and create an empty object, and I'm going to call it camera manager. Camera manager. Okay, and I like to put my main camera in there and then create a new folder for my virtual cameras and just place them inside, like so. Okay, then in my camera manager object, I'm going to place my camera manager script. Let's open this up and let's go through this same way we went through the menu manager. So let me put this in an empty space. Camera manager tutorial. And just like in the menu manager, we just want a very simple public void change to camera. And then we either want to feed it a camera or the name of that camera. Okay, so for example, string camera name, like so. Okay, and the whole point of this is in case you have an update where if I press input.get key down, I don't want escape, but I'll appreciate the help. If I press C, for example, then I want to change to a camera. Okay, any camera, doesn't matter. So for over here, I'm just going to say camera 2. Okay, and the whole point is that it's this easy to use. That's what we want. Okay, so if I go over here, let me just to match what we just wrote, let's have camera 1 and camera 2. Okay, now let's recap. How can we potentially convert this camera name into an actual camera. Now we could use GameObject.find, right? But that is way too slow, and we kind of want to narrow down our options to the virtual cameras that we have in our scene, right? And we could also use find objects of type, but we can also narrow that down even more, right? At the beginning, you could just have a series of menus, okay? So for example, a series, not menus, in this case, cameras, right? In this case, more specifically, we want Cinemachine cameras. Cinemachine virtual camera, okay? You can have an array of that. All cameras. And in fact, with the way Cinemachine is set up, this isn't entirely necessary in this case, which is an interesting difference between the two. And we're going to see why it's not that necessary. It's only necessary if you wanted to do it this way. And also, we're going to need a way of keeping track of what the last camera was, okay, so that we can deactivate it. So I'm going to make a private Cinemachine virtual camera. Cinemachine virtual camera. We're going to call this current camera, okay? But now, just like with the menu manager, we were playing animations to enter and exit the states. With the Cinemachine cameras, we just want to set their priorities up and down, okay? So in this case, if my current camera does not equal null, then I just want to set its priority all the way down. So current camera dot priority equals 0, okay? And that's all we need here. And then we need to somehow find our new camera, and we're going to use link once again. Okay, so var target camera. It's going to be one of the cameras in all cameras dot where. So we're going to look through all the cameras, and for each camera in all cameras, then we want to get the one with the same name as camera name, and we want the first one that we find exactly like how Visual Studio is recommending right now. So I'm just going to press tab to accept the recommendation. Okay, and then we want to set the target camera's priority to either be 1, 10, it doesn't matter as long as it's greater than 0. Okay, for now, 1 is perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm just going to say that if I press C, it changes to camera 2. If I press X, it takes me to camera 1, for example. And this should already work quite well. There are still improvements we can make, but for now, this should be perfectly fine. Okay, so right now we're in camera 1. So if I press C, okay, we forgot to set our cameras as usual. Okay, so I want camera 1 and camera 2, and also we forgot to set our current camera. That's a mistake. Current camera right now is null, which we don't want. So in start, I'm just going to follow the same example as before and say current camera equals all cameras 0. So the very first camera of all cameras. And once again, you could also have a serialized field variable to have a default camera of some sort. Okay, you don't have to follow the way I did it. Okay, with that said, if I now press C, it changes. If I now press X, it changes. Okay, and it's all handled by the camera manager. All you have to do is call this function. So change the camera, give it a name, and boom, it's done. All right, now let's look at an example. Let's say that you have 2 characters, right? And I'm going to create a script for that. In this case, I'm not going to say character, I'm going to say view changer, view changer, like so. Okay. And I'm just going to say that I want my view changer. Okay. And let's say that I have a view 1 and a view 2. Okay. And each of these views is going to have these cameras. Okay. Because a lot of times it's way more useful to do it this way, right? It's way more useful if you have your cameras attached to something else. Menus, as we looked at before, are fairly independent things, and they're all usually by themselves, but cameras usually depend or are associated to something else. So it's a lot more useful to have them like this, right? Instead of having them all bunched up over here, right? So in these cases where you don't want to use the name, because I also understand, and believe me, this happens, using the names of cameras gets very annoying because your plans change, the game changes, and the names of your things are also going to change, probably. Okay, you don't want your names to remain static. And so it's a lot easier to have references. That's one of the first things we learn as game developers, right? So let's create a view script over here. Let's go through this whole example of how this would work. Right? So view, and let's just say that this view has a camera. So Cinemachine virtual camera, my camera, very simple. Okay, and I just want to say, in this case, I'm going to make this just public. Actually, saves us a lot of a hassle, right? And now let's assign those changes. Boom, and then whoops, for view 2, I just have this. Now the view changer's job is to change between these two views, right? So in this case, I am going to create an array of private views, my views, okay? And this whole input bit, it's going to come to my view changer. Okay, now obviously this is not going to work right away, neither do we want it to. Change to camera doesn't exist. Okay, so we want it to make easily accessible so that you can use it from wherever you want. And so we're going to follow the same singleton pattern that we have looked at before. So public static camera manager instance get private set like so. And then we're going to place this out awake. Instance equals this. Okay, and once again, menu manager dot instance, sorry, not menu manager, camera manager, which is not going to exist because it's not the same namespace. Namespace camera manager tutorial, like so. And same thing for camera 2. But once again, we no longer want to use just the names, right? We want to use the actual views. But technically it's the same thing, right? You could do something along the lines of my views 0 dot my camera dot name. Simple as that, right? And now it's a reference, but you can also use its name. Okay? This should work as well. Now, there is a way of making this a lot faster, which we're going to have a look at in a second. Okay? So just like that, we should now have the same thing, but the cameras are associated to something else. But once again, the whole work is done by the camera manager. Okay? Now, I did mention that there was a way of doing this without the array here. Okay, it's also a faster way. So we're going to have a look at how we can do that. Okay, so we still need some sort of default camera. So I'm just going to leave this over here for that. So private Cinemachine virtual camera, default camera. Actually, we want the serialized field as well. So default camera, default. Okay, and my current camera is just going to be equals to my default camera on start. Okay. Now, in this case, you lose this ability, okay, of searching by name. But you could also do a hybrid of both. So it's up to you, right? If we were to do a hybrid of both, well, sure, we'll do a hybrid of both. Okay, so we go back to what we had, right? In this case, I'm going to create a new public void change to camera. We're just going to overload it. Okay. Now I want a new Cinemachine I can never spell Cinemachine virtual camera. Cinemachine virtual camera, new camera, right? In this case, you don't need to search for it, right? Oh, and we completely forgot to say that the current camera is equal to the target camera. We need to search for it because it's already there. Target camera is a new camera. Okay. And target camera, current camera equals target camera. Okay. In the view changer, I can just drop the name and it still works. Okay. Now here, not only you don't have to use link, which depending on the size of your list might make this a bit faster, right? But it also forces you to work through references, okay? Which depending on the situation might be a good thing. Okay, so this is again, this whole system can work for the menu manager tutorial as well, right? But instead of using a Cinemachine virtual camera as the input, use the or as the parameter, use the animator, right? So this all depends on what your needs are. Okay, but both these methods work. That's the point I'm trying to make. All right, and again, it depends on your workflow. If you like the convenience of not having references, then you can follow the strength path, right? But if you don't mind having to set all of those references yourself, which again, a lot of times is a good thing because things change over time, but references are always there, right? So it might be a good thing, but it depends on what you want.